What are you still salty about? In a 5th grade science test the question was, are there any stars in the solar system? I answered, yes. Teacher marked it wrong. I went up afterwards and said, what about the sun? He said, he meant that all the other stars are not in our solar system, and kept it marked wrong. Although I'm harboring this for 50 years now, he was all around one of the best teachers I ever had, and just passed away a week or so ago. But damn, that should have been marked right. When I was in high school someone tagged up the school. They announced there would be a reward for anyone who rats anyone out. I get called in the office and find out I'm suspended for vandalization. I didn't do it and had no idea who. 4 days later I'm allowed to come back to school because they found who actually did it. I just got an apology. Me and some others in primary school were saying the biggest numbers we knew of. Everybody was saying like 100,000 and a million, and then I'm like a trillion. And they refused to believe it was a real number. On a 4th grade math test we had to make a shape that had only 4 sides, 1 set of parallel lines, and only 1 right angle. There were probably more requirements, but I can't remember. I remember almost crying at my desk and spending 20 minutes on that one question, while constantly telling my teacher that it wasn't possible, but according to her it was. And the next day we went over the answer key, and the answer had 2 right angles. When I was in high school, I was occasionally allowed to drive my family's 3rd car. It had a slow leak in one of the tires, so we were all supposed to check the pressure and put air in it if we needed to. I picked up a friend to go to a movie, and when we came out one tire was completely flat. It wasn't the one with the leak, so I put the spare on and drove home. I got absolute hell from my parents about it. How irresponsible I was to not check it. I'd have to pay for the repair. Why didn't I call roadside assistance, etc. Took it to get fixed. Repeat the whole lecture as we're dropping it off. And the tech who did it called my mom and told her he'd found a nail in the tire and there was no way I could have seen it coming. She refused to apologize, and I still had to pay for it. Being charged $1,000 for a battery and alternator change. They also destroyed my starter motor in the process and rounded a bunch of my bolts. They left tools in the engine bay. I don't even have that car anymore, and I'm still salty. Fuck you midass. 3 months ago I went on maternity leave. The woman hired to cover for me was being paid $3 more than I'm currently paid. She was going to be kept on as a full-time accounting assistant after I returned, but she couldn't keep up with my daily tasks and completely fucked up several databases that I had to correct when I returned to work the following month. When I asked for a raise, they offered me .50 after telling me how crucial I'm to the structure of the company. Needless to say, I'm looking for a new job. In 4th grade English class, EU, I've used the word gross in a random sentence we had to write. The teacher argued that it isn't a real word. I said that it is, that I saw it a few times in video games and movies, and she said that they aren't a reliable source. I said to her that I'm gonna show it in the dictionary, but she instead grabbed me by the arm and took me out of the classroom and locked the door. To this day I'm still fuming about this. And then she had the nerve to be all chummy when I met her once in a supermarket. Gross. Edit. In both cases it was meant like disgusting, and I know there are even more meanings behind the word. I wonder if she knows by now. 20 years ago I had 3 friends show up at my house, and when they left my wallet with $80 in it was missing. One of the guys felt bad and gave me $20 back. 3 years after that we are in the back drive-thru and he whipped out my wallet. Still salty. His FB friend request has just been sitting there for like 2 years. Came second in food tech competition. Made a lovely main course, then Lang's D-chat biscuits with lemon posset for dessert. I made this dessert because the judges prior to this day told us don't make a cake for dessert. Guess what won first place? A fucking cake. I was probably 5 years old visiting my mom at the hospital after she gave birth to my brother, and she was given food on a tray which she didn't want, so she gave it to me. I put the tray on the table, and as I was eating, the nurse takes the tray away from me and throws away the food. That may have my first true instance of anger in my life. I'm 27 now, and I'm pissed as I'm writing this, haha. Our wedding photographer left part of their lens cap on, so every photo was shrouded in a massive black ring. No good photos from the wedding. I found a bongo next to the trash at my old apartment, and it was a perfect time capsule of the 90s. It had Grateful Dead stickers, a smiley face holographic sticker, a pot leaf sticker, and Alien. I'm telling you, if someone made this as a prop for a movie about the 90s, I would have told them that it's too on the nose. When I came home from work, the first thing my GF's friend said was, "You're welcome," and I was like, what? She had peeled off all of the vintage stickers and now it was just a boring trash bongo. I'm still mad. Don't touch my shit. My copyright law teacher gave us a case for our pass or fail final exam. I solved the case. We needed to predict the outcome based on evidence, and he failed me. Later that day, I decided to look the case up, and turns out I was right. When I confronted him, he said the grade was already posted, and even though I was right, he wouldn't do anything about it. Had to retake the class. When my mom put my sister's name on my birthday cake. Later that night I also walked in on my parents getting their freak on. Pretty horrible way to turn 13. Still angry. When I was a freshman in college, my mom gave my car to my jailbird brother. Every time he got out she'd scrape a bunch of stuff together for his fresh start without ever running it by me. He showed up to my school, changed the battery for me, and then drove away in it. He didn't tell me his intentions beforehand, so it wasn't until then that I caught on. As he drove off I called my mom and she just said, "I'll help you with a new one." He moved out of state with that car, wrecked it within weeks, and has since gone back to jail multiple times. Neither of them have given me a sincere apology to this day. That my 6th grade teacher refused to believe I had no idea the dude sitting behind me was copying my answers on the test. The first day of 8th grade my best friend and friend group informed me that they would no longer be my friend. To this day, 20 years later, I still don't understand how or why things ended up that way. I can only guess, because I was the shy nerd of the group and they were trying to fit in with the cool crowd. Regardless, it was a miserable experience that left me with quite a few trust issues. Edit. Wow, I never expected this to blow up like it did. Thank you for all the comments in my first awards. My father died in a very bad vehicle rollover a few years ago. I wasn't allowed near his vehicle in the tow yard until the cops finished their investigation. That took about 2 weeks. This entire time, the fuckwit owner of the yard was charging by the day from day one for storage of said vehicle even during the investigation. Was never allowed to thoroughly search his vehicle for lost heirlooms I believe the tow truck driver may have stolen. I was at a house party in college, and we had to take off our shoes. Some bitch walked home in my leather knee-high boots and I've never gotten over it. Edit. For clarity, she left her dirty ass shoes behind for me to go home with, so thanks I guess you shoe thieving wrench. Coming second in a school trivia competition 21 years ago. I had the correct answers onto questions that would have sent us to the national champs, and was vetoed by the other 3 shitheads on my team. When I was in high school, I entered a book quiz, and one of the books I chose was Demon Thief** by Darren Shan. During the quiz, I was asked what was the main characteristic of the Demonitor summoned by the punk during the concert. I said it had 3 heads. Wrong. The answer was that it had a dyed mohawk. Except it was the punk that summoned it that had the mohawk, not the damn Demonitor. I lost a point because the question setter could either not read, not write, or couldn't remember the book correctly. When I got my first car, a really old one, my dad told me I would be responsible for gas money and he would take care of the maintenance. After a while my brakes would make funny noises and I told my dad. I reminded him every once in a week, maybe half a year, and he always told me, yeah, I got it. I will handle it. My boyfriend at this time wouldn't let me drive it any further because he was concerned for my safety, so boyfriend, had a mechanic look at it. The mechanic told me that if I would have come sooner, it would have been a €50 bill to take care of it, but over time the brake got more and more damaged, and by then it would have been over €800 for the repair. When I told my dad, he just said that there is no way that he would spend so much money on a car that had maybe €500 value left. I ended up selling the car for scrap value. That was 10 years ago, and I still bring it up to my dad sometimes. If he would have just did something when I first told him, it would have been so cheap and easy.